Hey guys, it's Kesara, and today I'm going to be doing my most anticipated releases for winter 2021 to 2022. So for this, normally I would only include months of December, January, and February. For some reason, I didn't have any books that I was really anticipating in January, so I'm skipping that month and I'm going to include March instead. So we're going to start this all out with the books that are being released in December that I'm the most excited for. Obviously, it's like the end of December now, so they've already been released, but that doesn't mean I'm not anticipating them, and I haven't finished either of them. So we're gonna start out with the one that is the one in this entire list that I am the most excited for out of all of them, and that's Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. You guys have no idea how excited I am for this book. Actually, I've already started it. I'm on like chapter 3 and I'm loving it so much. I did reread Jade City and Jade War in anticipation of Jade Legacy. It is obviously the third novel in an Asian inspired fantasy series. It's actually urban fantasy because it's set in a world similar to ours, but it has very high fantasy vibes because the countries that it talks about don't actually exist. At least I really hope they don't actually exist. Otherwise, then I don't know my world geography at all. We're following characters that live on the island of Kaikon. It's following the Call family, which is this really powerful family that leads the No Peak clan. And in their society, Jade kind of gives the Kekanese people like superpowers. I just love everything about this series. It has really great family dynamics that I absolutely love. I love pretty much all of the characters. There are some really great morally ambiguous characters that I absolutely love. And like these characters do absolutely deplorable things, but they find a way to make it seem normal. And I love that about this series. But like I think one of the things that is so interesting in fantasy is just seeing how the mindset of people that you wouldn't like in real life, like if I met any of these characters in real life, I probably would hate them, except for Andin because he's so sweet. Other than him, I would probably hate most of the other characters because you can kind of see their mindset and how their mind works and all of that. It's so interesting. I love every second of the series and I cannot wait to see what's happening in Jade Legacy. I've already like started it. I'm like the very beginning, but it is just as epic as the first two. So far, I'm loving it so much and I can't wait to finish it. I really hope Fonda Lee writes another series because this one is definitely one of my new favorites of all time. The next one that's coming out in December, which I'll probably be getting to in January, maybe February, depending on how it goes, is The Liar's Knot by M.A. Carrick. So this is the sequel to The Mask of Mirrors, which The Mask of Mirrors I picked up on kind of a whim. It really surprised me. I did not expect to like it half as much as I ended up liking it, but it's everything that I want from a novel, really. It's a deeply political fantasy series that I just loved that has so many kind of like mysteries and things woven through it, and it's just so complex in the best way possible, and I loved every second of the first novel in the series, so I cannot wait to get to the second one. While I haven't read the summary or anything, because I like to go into these blind, especially when I've read the first book in a series already, I'm really excited to get to it, and hopefully I can get to it soon. So coming up in February, there is one book that I'm super excited that is coming out, and that is House of Breath and Sky by Sarah J. Maas. So this is the second book in the Crescent City series. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of Sarah J. Maas. Like out of all of the books that I've read by her, which is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, for like 7 of her books. I think 7. There might be more than that, but I think I've read 7 of her books, and out of them, I think there's only one that I can consistently say like I love almost everything about it. All of the rest of them I have a lot of issues with, and that includes the first book in this series, House of Earth and Blood. But despite me having a lot of issues with her books, I still find them highly entertaining, like highly entertaining. And I usually don't like the first novels in her series, like the first 2 series by her, Throne of Glass and Court of Thorns and Roses. Like both of those I really did not like. But with the first novel in this series, House of Earth and Blood, I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I was expecting. So because of that, I'm actually really excited for the second novel in the series because I feel like her series just get better as the novels continue. So I'm really excited to see where it's going. I do like the main character, even though normally I don't like her main characters that much, but I'm actually enjoying this main character and I'm enjoying a lot of the other characters. I think one thing that Sarah J. Maas does really well is make you just love her characters or love to hate her characters or just feel anything anyway about her characters. That's one thing I think she does really well, and I really enjoy these characters. And even though this one seems to be a little bit more on the urban fantasy side than some of her previous novels, it still has that very high fantasy feel to the series that just makes me want to read it so much more. This is actually one that I feel like I'm probably gonna buy like as soon as it comes out. Probably read physically because I like her novels more like the physical copy than the audiobooks too. So I'm definitely really excited for this one on multiple levels, even though I have a feeling it probably won't get that high of a rating for me. I'm always very hit or miss on her novels, but I'm also still really excited for it. I know it's gonna be a novel that I'm gonna have a lot to say about in either case. And coming up in March of 2022, there are a couple of books that I'm really excited for. The first one is The War of Two Queens by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So this is the fourth novel in the From Blood and Ash series, which took me by storm in 2021. I read From Blood and Ash in January and just absolutely fell in love with it immediately. I do really love the series overall, though the last book in the series did feel like it was getting a little bit repetitive, especially when it came to like the romance conflict aspect of it. The magic and like fantasy adventure war aspect of it is still really interesting to me, and especially with the way the last one ended, I'm excited to see how it goes into the next book. Mind you, I don't fully trust this author just because I feel like she likes to end it on kind of cliffhangers so that it makes you want to read the next book, because that's how I felt with the second book. Then when you get into the next book, they're not necessarily, it doesn't like necessarily go through the whole of the next book. Like whatever the cliffhanger was gets resolved pretty quickly early on, and then you get another book started. So I hate it when authors do that, and I felt like that's what happened at the end of the first book and the second book, and I kind of feel like that might be what's happening at the end of the third book too. But at the same time, I'm still really excited to see what happens in the fourth book, and I really hope that it's dragged out and it's not like resolved right away. But I mean, I'm still gonna read it, and I'm excited for it because it's just a fun series. That's like kind of like a guilty pleasure series for me, but I'm still really excited for it. So the last one on this list is Until the Last of Me by Sylvain Neuval. So this is the sequel to A History of What Came Next, which I read earlier this year, and I really enjoyed. It didn't make any of my end of the year list, but it was still a fantastic sci-fi novel. It has a weird like crossover between like alien encounter slash futuristic sci-fi and like historical fiction, and I loved that like aspect of it, and I'm really excited to see what comes next in this. It also has a little bit of like a contemporary fantasy feel to it, which I love those novels, like the more like atmospheric contemporary fantasy. Like I kind of got a little bit of that vibe from it, which I wasn't expecting from this type of novel, especially from this author, because this author is really good at like action sort of scenes, so that kind of surprised me. It was a really interesting novel that I'm really excited to see what comes more from this series, so I cannot wait to get to Until the Last of Me as well. So that's all I have for you guys. I post videos on Tuesdays and Saturdays, so consider subscribing. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!